Hi everybody, it's Andrea Villeneuve here. Thank you for cooking along with me today. And today for our cook along project, we are going to be making some tortellini soup. This is one of those recipes this is probably one of the first recipes I've ever learned actually. So this is perfect for beginners, perfect for your first time. If you are new to the kitchen, and also it's just tasty comfort food now because it's been part of my winter meal rotation now for so many years. First things first, before we jump into making our tortellini soup, which is a take on minestrone soup or kitchen sink soup if you know it by a couple of other names. So first things first, with anything, what I want you to do is I want you to wash your hands with warm water and soap for 20 seconds. Make sure you really get in there. And then also I want you to, if you have long hair, make sure you put it up and wear an apron if you want to protect your clothes at all. Make sure you're working with a nice clean surface, cooking area. And also make sure that you read through the recipe. Okay, so moving on, I am turning on my little burner right here where the soup is going to be cooking away right here. Kind of bring it in a little more. And I'm just going to heat a little bit of oil. There you go. You don't necessarily actually need to incorporate oil. The ground beef we're going to be using, any ground product you have, will actually already have a little bit of fat in it, but it's kind of nice if you want to make sure that it doesn't stick. It'll give you a little bit more browning as well. So not a bad idea at the end of the day. So I'm just going to grab a little spoon here, because what I will be doing is once this is a little warmer, I will be adding the beef in. I'm using the back of the spoon to basically break it up into little chunks so that it's more manageable and more soup sized. There we go. So while I'm waiting for the pan to heat up and the oil to heat up, before adding the beef, I'm going to get started on some mise en place. So basically this is the prep work that you do before you start the recipe to make things go smoother. So a couple of things that I do have to chop up. So right here we have little baby button mushrooms. You can see that I've already washed them. I rinsed them. If there's any additional dirt on them at all while we're working along, I have a little piece of paper towel to just kind of wipe off any excess dirt that we might see. But something fun that you might not actually know about mushrooms is that the dirt that mushrooms are grown in is pasteurized, which means that all of the bad bacteria has been killed, which means that this is probably, if you do eat a little bit of the dirt, it's probably the cleanest dirt you've ever eaten. So just a little interesting fact there. Still make sure you wash them. It's always important to wash your veggies. And then I'm using a paring knife, and I'm just gonna slice these. And you can see just how adorable these little things are. They're so tiny, these little mushrooms. There we go. As always, try and find that flat surface. We're using our claw to make sure that our fingers are tucked back. There we go. Just chopping them away. Something else that not a lot of people realize about mushrooms is that mushrooms have quite a bit of, they're actually the only vegetable in the produce section that has vitamin D in them. And they can actually make their own vitamin D if they are left in the sunlight for a little bit. So that's a little interesting fact, because normally you have to get vitamin D either through an animal product, or you have to get it through something that has been fortified with vitamin D. So it's really interesting that mushrooms are actually capable of making their own vitamin D. There we go. Another thing, I can also use leave the tip on, Make sure you have the claw going on, and you could use your big chef's knife as well. So whatever you're comfortable with. Once again, mushrooms are perfect to practice with just because they're softer, so you don't have to apply a lot of pressure to get the results you're going for. And once you're done doing the mushrooms, you're trying to aim for 2 cups of sliced button mushrooms for this recipe. Okay? So we're going to take a small break from cutting up these cute little mushrooms, and we're going to go back over to the ground beef section. So you can see right here, we have a pound of ground beef, lean ground beef. The oil is definitely heated up, so I'm going to go ahead and put the lean ground beef into the pot, and you'll hear it kind of sizzle. There we go, a nice hot pot. So right away, I'm just starting to break the beef up with the back of the spoon. There you go. And your goal here is you want to make sure that there's no more pink, that it's brown. If you get more of a brown color, it adds more flavor into the soup as well. So that's really what you're trying to go for. I'll just pick it up so that you guys can take a look into the pot and see kind of what it looks like. There we go. Cooking away, sizzling away. So we have our mushrooms cut, our beef is cooking away. Next, what I'm going to show you guys is we're just going to cut up the onion, and we'll dice up the carrot as well as the celery. Okay. So let's cook it away. Perfect. So I'll point you guys down. So this recipe actually calls for a small onion. We don't really need a small onion just because, it calls for a small onion, but I didn't have a small onion. I just had medium-sized onions. So what I'm doing here is I'm just using half an onion. So as I'm cutting up all of these veggies as well, I just wanted to keep in mind for everybody that this is kind of like this tortellini soup is a take on a minestrone soup, or sort of a kitchen sink soup. So this is one of those things where if you have a lot of leftover vegetables in the fridge and you know you need to use them before they go bad, then this is really what you want to, this is the kind of meal that you want to make. Because for example, say you have some cabbage in the fridge, or say you had a little bit of zucchini in the fridge. These are all vegetables that can be added into this recipe very easily. So it's one of those things where, okay, you might not have a carrot, or you might not have any kind of celery, but what you could always do is just cut this in half, sorry. So you might not have all the ingredients that I have listed here, but you can always substitute with another vegetable. Okay. And then I want this soup to have some chunks, so I'm not going to make this too small. But it is important to try and get all of your pieces to be similar sizes. This will help with even cooking. Something else that I did want to point out is that very common in the culinary world is the mixture of onions, celery, and carrots to flavor anything from a soup, a broth, to a stew. It's called a mirepoix. So that is the combination of, as I mentioned, the onions, the celery, and the carrot. Mirepoix. Which of course is French. There we go. So you can see already we're getting so many vegetables up and going. I'm just going to show you guys how to dice the carrot next, but I'm taking some time to stir the beef again and really just break it up as we're going along so that nice little bite-sized pieces of beef for when we're actually eating the soup. Here we go, here we go. Something else that I absolutely do love about this recipe is that it is a one-pot meal recipe. So it's everything in one pot, minimal cleanup. That's kind of the best way to go. The less you have to clean up, the better at the end of the day. Okay, so the beef is cooking away. You can see it just going. Almost all the pink's gone. And we almost have all our veggies cut up. So I'm going to put you guys down to show you the carrot now. Just move everything out of the way. Our cutting board is getting a little full, so you can always, if you're running out of room, get a bowl to put everything in. So for the carrots, I'm going to just cut this in half. Carrots are round, kind of dangerous again, right? So you want to be very careful and make a flat surface, okay? And then what you're going to do is just cut off little slices, cut those in half again, and then you're basically just very easily able to dice up the carrots. You'll also notice with what I'm doing is that, as always, I have a cloth underneath my cutting board, and that really helps it so that my cutting board isn't sliding around, which makes this a lot safer. There we go. Keeping on cutting. And I like to line them all up just so that it does make the cutting go a little bit faster. There we go. Once again, make that flat surface. Same thing happening again. There we go. And I just love this so much because you can see how many delicious, colorful veggies we do have right here. Between the mushrooms, the celery, the carrots. Not only does this add a lot of nutrients, this is actually the perfect way between the meat and all of the veggies to make a really quick broth. Because you're making the broth as you're making the soup, which is a great way to do it, especially when you're in a pinch and you're still going to get incredibly flavorful results. Okay. Whew. So the beef looks really nice, delicious, and brown. I'll show you guys what it looks like, a little peek. Here we go. You can see the beef is cooked so nicely. It's brown. It's adding so much flavor to this soup. And now we have the veggies that we just cut up that we're going to put in. So in this, the carrots are going to take the longest to cook to get to a softer consistency. Everything else will get soft fairly quickly. There we go. Putting it all in. Okay. There we go. So we have our mushrooms in, we have our celery in, we have our onion in, and we have our carrot in. Already so bright and colorful. Then also what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the spinach, which is also in this recipe. We have our spinach. Spinach will cook down a lot, a ton. There we go. As well as we have some salt and pepper to get this seasoned. So what I really love about putting the spinach with the beef together is that, so in spinach you have non-heme iron, and in beef you have heme iron. So it's harder to absorb non-heme iron, but the beef, the heme iron from beef, helps you absorb the iron from the spinach. It increases the absorption rate by 150%. So that is amazing. Talk about your superfoods right here. And that's why I recommend getting as many nutrients as you can from eating vegetables and eating whole foods, because taking a vitamin pill, you're just not getting all of the different factors that go into each food. Our bodies are meant to eat real whole foods, and that's the best way to get your nutrients. Okay, so I'm just gonna, basically this cooks up for about 3 minutes, but I'll give you guys a little look over in here so you can see all the beautiful colors and how everything's working together. There we go. Looks really good. See all of the veggies and the beef. There we go. Okay, so this has had about 3 minutes to cook. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add in the, I have a can of diced tomatoes right here. So that goes in. And we have water too. There we go. So you might be asking me why we're not using a broth, like beef broth or vegetable broth, to make this soup. And this is actually such an affordable, this is such an affordable soup to make as well, just because you don't need to buy all of those special items such as a broth. It's really easy because when it comes down to it, the flavor from the beef, the flavor from all of the veggies that we just added in, they're all going to work together, and they all work together basically so that to create the flavors that we need. So that's why we call it a quick broth, basically, is just because with the quick broth, you're not, you didn't simmer bones and not veggies, strain it, and then use that. It's just you're getting all of the flavors from what's already in this recipe. Okay, and now we're gonna add in some salt and pepper, additional salt and pepper. The salt and pepper before was used to flavor the meat as well as the veggies themselves. But since we didn't put a broth in, since we didn't use a broth, the salt and the pepper are going to be what flavors the water, which is very plain, has no salt added, so we need to add our own salt and pepper, right? Other things that you can toss into this recipe that make it great are, you can also feel free to add in different herbs and spices. Something that I frequently will add in is rosemary and thyme. It's kind of nice, kicks it up a notch. But just so you know, if you just want to use salt and pepper, you can do that too. So normally when you're cooking vegetables in any kind of liquid, it means that the nutrients have leaked out when you see like a little bit of green in the water, anything like that. So what I really love about having it all cooked in one pot is that any nutrients that are leached out from the vegetable itself are just going right into that broth. So you're maintaining all of those nutrients. Okay, so this has now been brought to a boil. There we go. So you can kind of see it bubbling away. Sorry, a simmer. So I'm going to stir in the noodles now. And the noodles, since these ones are already fairly, they're fresh noodles, they only need to cook for about 2 minutes in the pot. Whereas if you're using a dry noodle, so if you opt to use, like, instead of using the tortellini, to use a whole wheat noodle that you happen to have in your pantry at home, then it'll take a little longer, and I recommend that you look at the back of the packaging just to see how long it'll take, but it should take around at least 7 minutes probably to cook up a thin pasta. Sorry, I'm thinking like spaghetti type pasta that's been broken up, but basically follow the package directions if that's the case. These tortellini should take 2 to 3 minutes and then be done. There we go. So I'm just stirring this around. I'll just show you what it looks like. It's just kind of simmering here. There we go. Here we go. So you can see how delicious that looks. While that's going, I am just going to get a nice bowl and I'm going to help myself to this delicious soup. Okay, so I have a bowl. There we go. This has now been cooking away. For about 2 minutes with the noodles in here. I'll show you guys me serving it up. There we go. This looks absolutely amazing. It smells so good. It's a nice, really cold day out today, so this is perfect. Okay, there we go. And there you have it, a nice, beautiful soup. Perfect for a cold winter's day. Give it a go. Yum. So good. The quick broth tastes amazing. So definitely ready, perfect lunch or dinner, whatever you're going for. Go ahead and serve it with some cut up vegetables, maybe a nice crusty bread. All great options. Thank you so much for cooking along with me today.